our plans are very much to expand nationally. We see that as a big opportunity. I suppose you kind of go where your customers want you to go, really. When we first started, we're in London, and I always said I would never go outside London. It's too far away to manage it. In Manchester, you lose control. And we ended up going to Manchester, and then we ended up going to Reading, and then we ended up going to Leeds, and then we ended up going to 17 other cities in a year. We're in, I think, about 25 different cities in the UK, and just launched Newcastle.
I'm Alex Epstein, and this is Field Service Stories. I'm here today with Dominic Ponniah, co-founder and CEO of London-based cleaning business Cleanology. Hello, Dominic.
Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for coming down, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you. So I've wanted to meet you for ages. As I said, as I mentioned before, I've read about you in the Times recently, a lot recently. Give us an introduction to Cleanology. Who are you? Who do you serve, and what is Cleanology all about?
So we are a commercial cleaning business, started over 20 years ago, originally by my mother. I was helping her get set up, agreed to stay on as a temp for 3 months to get her website running and the marketing, and then 20 years later, I'm still here. And we are a nationwide business. We look after customers from Scotland to Southampton. We work in a number of sectors. Most of our business is office cleaning, that kind of environment. And then we work with some medical businesses, some retail, hospitality, conference venues, car showrooms. We look after the largest car showroom in Europe. And some royal palaces, but I cannot say any more than that, so I'm sworn to secrecy.
Well, royal palaces tend to be squeaky clean, so you're obviously doing a very, very good job there. This is not your first business. So you mentioned that your mum actually started the business and you joined, but in your early 20s, you had another business. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I had a couple of businesses. I had a business that exported waste paper from Europe to Asia. I had a website business, and then I had a motorized rickshaw business, which we launched in Brighton in 2006, and then closed it in 2007. So we ran it for 2 years. And it was the first year it actually operated under a bus license. So it actually ran along a fixed route. And then the second year operated more as a sort of taxi service. So a bit like an Uber service now. Yeah.
But that was in the early 2000s.
Yes, mid 2000s, yeah.
So before the days of Uber, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we were ahead of our times, really. It was a very old-fashioned vehicle, but we were trying to run it in a very sort of, modern way. The taxi lobby absolutely hated us, went nuts, sued us twice. It was a very fun business, but it was a very challenging business to run. Now when there are delays on planes and trains, I do have a lot more sympathy than I used to, because it is hard to run a transport business, especially running it on time.
But essentially, you were running an operation, and you're running a busy operation now. So in some way, the sort of skills and learnings from your rickshaw business probably equally apply to running a cleaning business.
Absolutely, there are lots of transferable skills. I mean, we had a lot of drivers we had to employ. We had in those days a lot of cash. Now everything's obviously cashless. That was very painful. So we had a lot of money stolen from us. In hindsight, there are many things I do differently.
How do you describe yourself, Dominic? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you a businessman?
Probably both of those. Yes, I have had other businesses. Started it, from nothing and lost money. Lost, a lot of money. And then started again and, have done well in the last business. I think, business is in my blood. It's what I love to do. I don't really think of it as a job. It's more, it's more my hobby, really. It's fun, it's challenging, but it's very rewarding. The success is what you work towards. And I don't mean that financially. I mean just, in terms of building something successful and, seeing happy customers, your team happy, your team developing. Those are all really important things.
You're not the first person to have said that. So a common thread that I see with a lot of our clients is particularly where there's, a founder still involved in the business. They don't describe it as a job. They describe it almost as a hobby, as something they wake up and they're raring to do every single day. They have huge passion for achievement, for growing teams, and for actually not just making themselves successful, but making the people in their business successful with them, taking them on a journey. So really very interesting. Just with your tuk-tuk business, you appeared on Dragon's Den. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I did. Giving away a bit of a dragon secret, you do walk down into the basement and then you get the elevator up one floor. It's not the fourth floor of a warehouse. It was a scary experience at the time. I was very nervous. I was very young. I had a business where the numbers were, challenging. It was a complicated business because you had to have licensing and insurance. So there were a lot of risks and barriers. So as an investor, if you're a dragon, you'd be asking a lot of questions, which they did. They managed to condense, I think, about an hour and a half of filming into probably about 30 or 40 seconds. But it was a good experience. It kind of puts you under the cosh, and you've got to know your stuff and be prepared for a grilling. And if you don't want to do it, then you don't go in there.
So that was an experience in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that was really, when that program first started, it's something I always thought, oh, it'd be so fun to do that, or, I'd love to go on it, and, it can't be that hard. And, you've got the dragons there in front of you, and then you've got about 50 people standing, which obviously you can't see on the camera, but, to the side of you. So you've got a lot of people, all the producers and all the production team there. So there's actually a lot of people in that room. You're not actually on your own, which kind of adds to the pressure. But it was good. It was a good experience. I'd say Deborah Meaden was probably the most reasonable dragon.
You're right. I've met Deborah Meaden, and in real life, she's actually very charming. She is.
Yeah.
I've met her. So let's talk about Cleanology. So you mentioned it was actually your mum who got the business off the ground to begin with. Why a cleaning business?
That's a very good question. She got into cleaning by accident, as most people do. And most people get into cleaning and get out, or you get in and you stay in. And she got in and got out, and I got in and stayed in. But she had a friend who had a cleaning business, and was going to buy it, and for one reason or another, it kind of fell through. And then she got an opportunity to work with a potential customer, gave them a quote, and she won it. And not expecting to win that contract, she then ran that for a few years, and then said, oh, will you help me with it? So we actually ditched that brand and relaunched it as Cleanology. And then it kind of just grew month on month. I think we're about the second or third company on Google, paying 10p a click. Now we pay a lot more than that. And yeah, it just kind of grew. The motorized rickshaw business, had to kind of fold, for various reasons. And then, the cleaning just carried on and ended up doing that.
I read in the Times that in 2021, you achieved sales of 12.8 million and profits of 1.1 million, which is impressive. Can you bring those figures up to date for us?
Yes. So last year we did about 22 million of turnover and a similar level of profit. We had quite a big year of investment, and we moved offices, and there were quite a lot of costs. So we have the foundations now to go from a 25 million business to a 50 million business, which is our current plan. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of growth. I mean, nearly doubling the size of the business in a year. It doesn't come without pressure on the business, on the systems, on the team, I think we've done okay to manage it. I think there are other things I would have probably done differently in hindsight. But yeah, we have an amazing foundation now to go from where we are to doubling again.
So that's an amazing story, to go from startup to a 25 million turnover. Getting a business from 0 to 25 million is very different from going from 25 to 50 million. How do you double the size of a business, within a reasonable time frame? What will you have to do to get to that next sort of big milestone?
I mean, some things you will carry on doing the same, and some things you'll have to adapt and do differently. You've obviously got different stages, of growth. So that sort of 0 to 1 million is really hard work. I mean, it's hard work at every stage, but theoretically, it should be easier to go from 25 to 50. We're working with much bigger, more national and international kind of companies and brands now. So, if we're working with them in London, they also want us to look after Bristol and Manchester and Scotland and, even internationally, which we're not doing at the moment. So for us, our plans are very much to expand nationally. We see that as a big opportunity. And I suppose you kind of go where your customers want you to go, really. When we first started, we're in London, and I always said I would never go outside London. It's too far away to manage it. In Manchester, you lose control. And we ended up going to Manchester, and then we ended up going to Reading, and then we ended up going to Leeds, and then we ended up going to 17 other cities in a year. Now we're in, I think, about 25 different cities in the UK, and just launched Newcastle.
Oh, right. No, that is amazing, actually. And it's a very, what you've achieved is incredibly impressive. Let's talk a little bit about COVID. COVID had a massive impact on the UK economy. It affected our clients in a big way. Pretty much all of BigChange's clients have one thing in common. They all have a mobile workforce. It's all about installing, servicing, cleaning, maintaining. You had 600 employees before COVID. I believe at the peak of the pandemic, you had 400. What did COVID do to your business, and how did you cope and recover from that?
Yeah, I mean, COVID was a very tough time for the sector. I mean, on the positive side, cleaning became a much more important thing for most businesses. Although I think now everyone's sort of reverted to type and forgotten about COVID. But we had, I think, about 85% of our staff on furlough. Almost all of our sites were closed or reduced in some way. We didn't have to make anyone redundant, which was fantastic. We managed to keep everybody on board. A lot of our staff left the business. I would say about 10% left and went abroad, went back home and never came back. A lot of people also left the sector and decided, actually, I'm not going to clean anymore. I'd rather be an Uber driver or a Just Eat driver or delivery driver, and have gone into to other careers. So it's kind of sort of displaced a lot of people, and obviously we're sort of settling back in. But I think as a business, we came into it very strong, and we, I said to everyone at the beginning, I said, we're going into it strong, and we'll either, we'll survive and thrive, and we'll come out even better, or we'll be finished. And luckily, we came out the other end and came out really strong. And actually, from coming out of COVID, we then we had that year where we doubled in size. So, the world had changed and people's priorities had changed. And as a business, we're very focused on our people and on sustainability and doing things the right way. And that messaging got really, got a lot of traction with our customers and prospective customers. So, that's our COVID journey, really.
I think what's very interesting is you talked about that idea of survive and thrive. It's almost like natural selection, survival of the fittest. It takes a strong business, a strong founder and a strong team to actually survive the ups and downs of business life. So if you can emerge at the other side of something like COVID and then quickly double your turnover, that says a lot about your business. Interesting. You'd said that the cleaning industry doesn't have quite as much shine as other industries, to sort of forgive the pun, and that it can be challenging to attract, the right caliber of people, particularly on the management side of things. What have you done differently as a cleaning business to really differentiate yourself?
Yeah, I think the article said it doesn't have enough sex appeal for the exact words. There is definitely an image issue, and I don't mean just by cleaning, but I think, potentially the people that represent it. It's not a particularly diverse sector. It's not the only one, by the way. There are lots of other sectors like that, but it's not very diverse. It's quite male-orientated. There are very few female leaders, although that is beginning to change. I think us as a business, we are very, very diverse. I mean, we have at least 34 countries represented. In head office alone, I think we have about 20. We have 50% female leadership. I think about 40%, ethnic minority on the senior leadership team. In a very undiverse sector, we're a very diverse business. I mean, we certainly wouldn't operate with quotas or anything, but we want the best people to work here. And whether they are a white male, a white female, or anything else, we don't care. We just want the best people. So I don't know. I think it's possibly more by accident than by design. And I suppose people want to work in a company that represents them and their values and that they can feel some affinity with. And I think, people who want to work in a diverse business will come here and will enjoy it. And I suppose it's sort of self-fulfilling, really, in that sense, that we attract, a more diverse workforce.
So one thing, Dominic, I've noticed is that you look different to a regular cleaning business. There's something different about Cleanology. And what is that difference?
Yeah, we had a director once who worked for us, and he said, when you come into the business, he said, you're more like a design agency than you are a cleaning company. In terms of like feel and vibe, and and I think that is true. I think we operate as a business. We don't operate as a cleaning company. I think that's probably the distinction I would make. The fact is we do cleaning, and it's a pretty normal standard thing. Business is quite a simple business in some ways, but we try and make it more fun, more interesting. We try and do it in a modern way. We use technology. We use innovation. We're about doing things the right way, and we're very forward thinking. I suppose that's the difference. We're looking forwards, and maybe other companies are looking backwards.
So one thing, I meet lots of business leaders, and sustainability is something that comes up time and time again now. I understand that sustainability is sort of baked into your business, for example, around the sorts of cleaning materials that you use. Can you tell us a little bit more about how important sustainability is to you and your clients?
Sustainability is probably the number one thing for us as a business and for most of our clients. I think for 20 years we've been always doing things in a sustainable way. When we first started, we had microfiber cloths, and they were like £1 something each, and everyone was using disposables. We've obviously evolved. I think the first company to have a fully electric fleet in London. We're the first company in the UK to have staff uniforms made from recycled plastic bottles. In every aspect of the business, we try and be the first. We were again first in Europe to have little sachets with chemical-free product. Reduces transport costs, reduces wastage. There are so many advantages to it, but for us, it's in our DNA. I suppose maybe it goes back to my old days as a child when I won my green, blue pizza badge. And it's kind of just runs through the business. And we now have a lot of people who come to join us because we're sustainable. They want to work with a company that does things in a sustainable way. And our clients are similar minded, really. They want to work with us for those reasons. They're not working with us because we're the cheapest necessarily. They want to work with a company that shares the right values, and it's about partnership.
So there's clearly two ends of the cleaning industry. There's one end which is all about lowest possible price, and there's the premium end of the market, which is about investment in cleaning, quality, excellence. I know you're very passionate about the fact that you pay the London living wage. Why is that important?
Yeah, I think you're right, absolutely right. I've been quite a vocal critic of this race to the bottom. And recently I saw a post on LinkedIn where a competitor was saying, we'll match any quote, beat any price. And I just thought, this isn't Tesco. This is a service business provided by people. And at the end of the day, you get what you pay for. And I have a very simple phrase, which is, you don't get a Ferrari for the price of a Ford. And it's true. And, if you want to pay lower money, that's fine, but you can't expect to get the best service. And it's a time old saying, really. But unfortunately, in our industry, there are still far too many companies that undercut and promise ridiculous things. And we're not the only ones. There are others like that, but there are just still too many who seem to think, who chase turnover, and they're not worried if they're making less than 1% profit. What is the point of doing all that work for no money? I don't get it.
And in a practical way, or in a people way, the difference that getting a living wage makes to your team, and particularly for people who live in London. How can people get by if they're not paid a living wage?
Absolutely. Apart from the business sense of paying a living wage and getting, higher retention and, higher caliber of person, then, it's also morally the right thing to do. You want to reward people and pay them fairly. Fair days pay for a fair day's work. That's something that we've always done. I mean, when the minimum wage came in at £3.60 an hour, we were paying £6 an hour. And that guy stayed with us more than 10 years. So it does make a difference. And there are people who are seriously suffering, and it is very expensive to live, not just in London, but the UK. So in order to make sure you look after people and that they can make ends meet, you do have to pay the living wage. But apart from that, it's just the right thing to do from a business commercial point of view as well.
On a slightly different topic, you were featured in the Times recently, and you commented about the government's plans to change the rules around unfair dismissal rights. At the moment, as an employer, often staff or employees get a 6-month probation, and there's different sort of periods of time. Under proposed new government legislation, employees will have unfair dismissal rights from day one. Is that workable in the field service sector?
I've said no. I've said it's not workable, and I'm not the only one that says that. I think there are a lot of employers, business owners, hiring managers, HR people who are very worried about it. I think there are a number of challenges. I mean, if you have, just taking a simple example, we have somebody, they start on day one, they come in, that's great. They miss work on day 2. We have to explain to the client why the office hasn't been cleaned. Then they come in on day 3. Then they don't come in day 4 and 5. And then next week we have to organise a disciplinary. Then they don't turn up for the disciplinary, right? And then we have to organise, say they come in again after that for the disciplinary. That's great. And then you have to go through another disciplinary, give them another warning. I mean, this thing can go on for weeks and months. And at the end of the day, if you've missed 3 days of work in your first week, you should have the right, surely, to dismiss that person. We do need a flexible labour market. Not every employer is a good employer. Not every employee is a good employee. And that's the reality of it. And the sad thing is, really, I think that the good employers, and I like to think we're a good employer, will be penalised and will suffer, and the good employees as a result of it. We had somebody who we employed, and she had a probation period for 3 months, and we were going to dismiss her as we didn't think that she was very good. We decided to extend it and carry on and give her another period of improvement. And now, 2.5 years later, she's fantastic. But, if you have that sort of short window and you've got to make a decision, I'm either going to dismiss this person or not, you're then going to dismiss them, or you wouldn't employ them in the first place. So it's going to make employers much more risk adverse and much less likely to take a chance on people who actually, with the right coaching and environment, could actually be really good. But, you've got this sort of now artificial time period, or very short time period potentially, where you've got to make a call and say, I'm either going to go through all the pain of having to get rid of them later on, or I'm going to, give them a chance. So for our sector, and we're not the only sector, but for sectors like cleaning, security, catering and more transient workforce, hospitality, it is going to be a real problem.
It sounds as if this could create a lot of red tape and a lot of distraction from day-to-day operations, just trying to sort of manage around this issue.
It will do. I mean, we'll need a bigger HR team for a start. People will put in claims because they can, and it costs them no money. Zero risk to the employee, all the risk on the employer. And the tribunals can't cope at the moment. There's like a year backlog to get a hearing. So, you're going to have, I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, never mind a backlog, it's just going to become completely, clogged up and unworkable.
How is the cleaning sector innovating? What's the future of the cleaning sector? And the reason I ask this is I was living in the Netherlands for a while. I used to pass through Schiphol Airport quite frequently, and I noticed they've got this team of new cleaning robots. Are there other innovations on the horizon that will make the industry more efficient, will help your team deliver an even better service?
Innovation is definitely a big buzzword in the industry. There are lots of very clever innovations. You've got, as you say, the robots, which are also at Terminal 5 at Heathrow, I think the other terminals as well. But you've also got things like sensor technology, where you can measure, footfall in buildings, and obviously post-COVID, where people, have a bit more of an unusual work pattern, it's very useful data to be able to measure building usage and be able to apply your cleaning team in the best possible way. There's also data. Data is a big thing now. Like everyone wants reports and data. They want to know how much, carbon footprint they've got and through delivering that cleaning service. And so, yeah, data is a big one as well.
So big data. Why is big data important to the cleaning industry and to your client?
I mean, data is information. So with that information, you can make better informed decisions. So if you have a situation where you've got, fourth floor is not used on a Friday, instead of cleaning fourth floor, third floor, second floor, and then starting back on the fourth floor, you just skip the fourth floor and, and work from the third downwards. So having that kind of information and data just enables you to make, better decisions in terms of how you use your team. It won't replace the workforce of teams. It just means you're able to produce a better end result, really. And certainly in terms of like CO2 and carbon reporting, and everyone working towards net zero, it's a really important thing because you need that data to be able to track, how you're doing in performance and if you're increasing or decreasing your carbon footprint and so on. So data is the new gold, isn't it? So everyone wants data.
Absolutely, that's interesting. So just on technology, how long have you worked with BigChange?
Just about a year now, I think.
Oh, really?
It's been a great experience and a great journey. We've really enjoyed our partnership. The team are very easy to work with and very helpful and it's a great system. It's one of those things that you're probably only using a small percentage of what it can do. It does so much, and it's an evolution, isn't it? You start off small, you implement that, and then you start implementing other areas and building up. And we're not there yet. We're on that journey,
sure,
to full implementation.
How do you use BigChange in your business every day?
So we use it for our mobile workforce. So we have 7 vans in London and 4 in the north. And for us, it's an invaluable tool to be able to schedule work and monitor our teams in terms of where they are, timekeeping, and just being able to inform clients that the team are running 15 minutes late, they're just parking. That kind of information it just makes everyone's life so much easier. So it is a fantastic system. And, it's something that we're very glad we took on board.
One thing we see at BigChange is that end clients are becoming more demanding. We're so used to having Uber and Deliveroo. We're so used to this idea that we can get anything on demand, and we expect data on everything. We love it when Uber tell us this is how many journeys you did this year. This is how much money we save you. What kind of data or reports do your clients want to prove when you arrived, what work you did, when you left? Has the demand for that type of information increased?
Absolutely. Clients are a lot more demanding than they were. And I think it's sort of partly driven by the consumer market in terms of everything we do is just so much quicker and easier. You can get onto your banking in an app, as you say, you get all this data from Uber. Everyone wants everything at their fingertips. So it's a very kind of quick turnaround. You need to have all the information straight away, no generating a report. It took me a month to do it. It's very, people are demanding, we're more demanding, I think, as a customer as well. So I think it's everybody is more demanding. So it's not unreasonable. But yeah, it is definitely driven by all this sort of information. I think sometimes you can get information overload as well. But people do want to kind of measure and be more accountable. I suppose it's the transparency piece, isn't it? People want to know that actually they're putting something in the recycling bin and it is getting recycled. And can you track that journey for me? When did it actually end up turning into another plastic bottle or something? So that level of information is what people are looking for. And that is something that we can actually now provide them with, like the whole journey.
We have a relatively new government. What can the government do to help businesses like Cleanology and the wider sector? What do you need the government to do to help you go from your sort of 25 million turnover to the 50 million pound turnover? How can the government support businesses like you on that journey?
Gosh, that's a big question. How long have you got? For me, I'd want all governments to basically leave us alone and not interfere and let businesses get on with it and not put additional barriers and, regulation and problems in the way. Obviously, we've spoken about the new employment laws which are proposed, but, essentially businesses need as much freedom as possible. Now, of course, that's not to say it's the Wild West and you do whatever you like. That's not the case at all. But I suppose, a lot of governments talk a good game, but it's about what they actually do. So yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see what actually transpires with all the proposals. But I think it is going to be a very uncertain time for businesses, a lot of change. And I think as long as businesses know what the changes are, they will adapt and they will deal with it. It may not be very favorable, but I think businesses don't like uncertainty. So I think certainty is probably the one thing that any business would want.
So final question, Dominic. We know there's a cause close to your heart and the hearts of the people at Cleanology, and that is the charity, the Hygiene Bank. And you've been fundraising for the Hygiene Bank for a number of years now. Tell us about the Hygiene Bank, how your partnership came to be, and why it's so important.
Yes, I've got my yellow shirt on today, which is it must be a Hygiene Bank day. So we're going over to the venue later to see them and do some filming. So the Hygiene Bank, we started supporting them about 4 years ago. We came across them. There was a National Hygiene Week, and we thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So we looked into it to try and understand what it was all about. And essentially, the Hygiene Bank is like a food bank, but for hygiene products. So it supports people who can't afford everyday hygiene essentials. So there are parents reusing nappies and, tampons having to be reused, and people that can't afford toothpaste. And obviously, we've got lots of issues in the country with, teeth falling out, dentistry issues, deodorant, and all those kind of basic essentials. So, in this day and age, it's really awful that this even exists. And, to be honest with you, me and most people I talk to, we confess that we didn't even realize it was an issue until we'd actually learnt about it. And now it's 3.1 million adults living in the UK with some form of hygiene poverty, which is really astonishing. I think from a Cleanology point of view, it's something that the team are really passionate about, and we love to support them and get behind it. This is our 4th year raising money. We should hit the 100 grand mark this year, which is going to be a big milestone. And I think as a business, I think we've really championed the cause, and it's so heartening to see the support across the industry and other companies and other organisations. The British Cleaning Council saying get behind the Hygiene Bank and supporting. We've got Metzer paper making it their official charity, and the Hill Club and others. And that's great. To see the support widening. That's not just us as a business, and that's what it's all about: spreading the message, encouraging people to get involved, and doing as much as possible. And a huge thank you to BigChange for supporting and sponsoring the event this year.
And how can people get involved? Because I believe you've got an event. When is it happening? How do people sign up?
We have an event. It's on the 9th of October, Wednesday the 9th of October at Hard Rock Cafe in Piccadilly. You can book tickets on the Eventbrite page. We've got amazing raffle prizes this year and auction prizes. A DJ, first time we're having a bit more party theme going on. But people can donate either cash, come along to the event. They can donate products in all Boots stores as well. We also have a collection point here, so we're happy to receive product donations. A lot of our suppliers, and big thank you to them, have donated pallets of products as well, which is fantastic. So yeah, a really huge thank you to everybody for their support, because it is incredible.
Thank you, Dominic. So listen, this has been a really interesting story. I think you are an inspirational business, within your industry. And we look forward to seeing you continue to go from strength to strength. And we hope to join you at the Hygiene Bank fundraising night. So thank you very much for your time, Dominic. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.